Hey, this is Tony with Salt Strong, and in this video I wanted to share some tips that will help you land bigger fish on light tackle. Now, sometimes we may go out on the water, we don't have really heavy gear with us, but we might come across some bigger fish, and it is possible to fight and land those fish effectively with light gear. There's just a few things that you want to put into consideration. Now, just a little disclaimer, I know people are going to say you should be targeting bigger fish on bigger tackle, but not all the time you're going to be prepared for those bigger fish, so you got to use what you got. Also, if you are fishing around structure, let's say bridge pilings, docks, jetties, anything like that where those fish can basically run you into that structure and break you off, make sure you do come equipped for that. You want to go with heavier gear. So anything in the 20-pound to 30-pound line rating range, that would be ideal, and about 40, 50, 60-pound leader is going to be more ideal because you don't want to get broken off around that structure, and that's if you are fishing that type of structure. Now, if you're out there on the flats, open water, nothing that can break you off, you really don't need much. I've caught 40, 45-inch redfish on 10-pound braid and 20-pound leader, getting them in about 10 minutes or so. So you don't have to fight them very long as you fight them properly. Now, when you get to the end of this video, if you did enjoy it, please be sure to give it a like and also subscribe to our channel as we put out fishing tips on pretty much a daily basis to help you catch more fish. So let's go ahead and get to it. I'm going to be having some footage rolling, and then I'm going to be talking behind it, sort of giving you some tips as we go along to help you avoid losing those bigger fish on light tackle. So the first tip that I want to share is that if a fish wants to run, definitely let them run. Don't try to put too much heat on them, especially at the beginning of the fight and also towards the end of the fight. A lot of people sort of put their guard down at the end of the fight. They think the fish is tired, and then they'll try to horse him in, and then at that last minute that fish will get some energy and take off when it is very close to you, either right next to the boat or right next to you. So you definitely don't want that fish to break you off at the end of the fight. So what I highly recommend, when you start getting that fish closer to you, start loosening your drag, because you're going to have less line out, so there's going to be a lot more pressure on your line when that fish is closer to you. So as you get that fish in closer to you, definitely loosen up on your drag. And if you need to, you can use your palm to sort of palm the spool, and that will put more resistance on your line, so you don't have to keep adjusting your drag. I would rather have my drag very loose and use my hand to control the drag, as opposed to having that drag too tight and risk losing that fish. Now, one thing you want to make sure of is that your drag is not set too loose or too tight while you're actively fishing, because if it's set too loose and you're retrieving your lure or you have your live bait out and you go to set the hook, you're going to miss that hook set because there's not enough pressure on that hook to penetrate the fish's mouth, so you're going to lose that fish. Also, if the drag is too tight and you go to set that hook, as soon as you set that hook and that big fish runs, you're probably going to get broken off. So make sure that drag is set right in that sweet spot.
Goodness.
Also, another additional tip as far as letting that fish run when it comes to snook and tarpon, they have very rough mouths. So if you put a lot of pressure on that fish and you're using light leader, their mouth will basically just rub right through that leader. So definitely make sure you let them run if they want to run, because again, too much pressure on that leader, they'll rub right through it and you'll lose that fish. Now, another important tip is to chase down that fish if you have to. If you're fishing from a boat, you can use your trolling motor, or you can crank the engine and have somebody drive for you while you're fighting that fish. Or if you're very skilled, you can possibly chase down that fish on your own while also controlling the boat. Now, if you're fishing from a kayak, if you don't have pedals, what I highly recommend doing is just jumping out of the kayak. You know, anchor up, hop out of the kayak if it is safe to do so, if it's shallow enough, and you can chase down that fish in order to land them. Now, if you do have pedals, that's a great advantage of having pedals, is that your hands are free, so you can fight the fish, use the pedals to chase down that fish. Now, the last tip that I want to talk about has to do with actually fighting the fish. What you can do to sort of wear down that fish quicker so you're not fighting them as long. Sometimes if you fight them too long, your line can become weaker, your knots will become weaker, and you'll end up losing that fish. So what I like to do, and something that a lot of people sort of make a mistake with, is how they actually pump the fish, you know, what they're doing with their rod. The biggest mistake I see people do is that they just keep their rod tip up, and that's not really going to do much as far as getting that fish tired. What you want to do is whatever direction the fish is going, you want to pull in the opposite direction. You want to start turning that fish. The more you can get that fish to turn, the quicker you can wear down that fish. So for example, if the fish starts running off to the right, what you want to do is pull to the left. Keep your rod tip down, keep it low. And also, with keeping that rod tip low, that's going to help keep that fish from coming up to the surface, because when they come up to the surface, they shake their head. Your line is basically going through a pressure change. It's going from, a lot of resistance on the water to zero resistance out in the air, and a lot of times they'll spit the hook that way. So keep that rod tip low, pull against the fish, against whichever direction that they are going in. So that will wrap up this video. If you have any tips that you would like to share as far as fighting bigger fish on light tackle that have helped you land those fish, definitely let us know in the comments down below. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
Hey there, it's Joe Simons, one of the co-founders here at Salt Strong, and have you claimed your free pack of these irresistible Slam Shady paddle tail lures? We designed this lure with over 12,000 serious inshore anglers, including many full-time guides, to go out there and catch more redfish, more speckled trout, more snook, more flounder, more inshore saltwater slams. And if you want a free pack to try out a sample yourself, click down below right now. We have one free pack per angler while supplies last. Click down below right now.